Move more one, getting active. So the first topic of conversation is what is physical activity? And we can see that according to the World Health Organization, physical activity is defined as any bodily movement produced by the skeletal muscle that requires energy expenditure, such as walking, hoovering, walking up and down the stairs, or even hanging your washing out on the line. Now, whilst you're on this training, what I'd like you to do is put your arm out in front of you with your palm facing towards the ceiling. And I want you to move your arm towards your face and then away again. That is a form of physical activity because the skeletal muscles that are being contracted and relaxed are your bicep brachii and your tricep brachii. You could argue that we also have our forearm involved with that and our wrist extensors, but for the purpose of this activity, when we actually contract our bicep, energy in the form of heat is released into the environment. It's naked to the human eye, but it does contribute towards your overall energy expenditure because all movement counts and every minute matters. If we compare physical activity to exercise, exercise actually follows a regime. It's planned, it's structured, it's repetitive, and it often targets specific fitness goals like cardiovascular health, muscular strength, or even flexibility. While all exercises are a form of physical activity, not all physical activities are considered exercises. For example, physical activity could be spontaneous. You need to nip down to the supermarket to get a bit of bread or get a bit of milk because there's none in the fridge. That involves walking. Whereas compare that to exercise, you actually know your resistance training program, you're training 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 5 p.m. You might think there and then that you need to go get those groceries, whereas exercise is usually planned accordingly to your schedule. Now, you'll often notice that both physical activity and exercise will contribute towards your overall health and well-being, and you can choose activities based on preferences and goals, blending everyday movements with structured workouts to promote a healthy and active lifestyle. And we do recommend that you move your body in as many ways possible, even increasing your NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, through walking, as that's going to impact your digestion and it's going to impact your performance when you're resistance training. Now, how do you actually increase your total physical activity time? It can be achieved through gradual and sustainable changes in your daily routine. We could incorporate activities that you enjoy, whether it is walking or dancing. We want to aim for at least a 30-minute brisk walk most days of the week. And we want to consider scheduling regular exercise sessions as non-negotiables into your calendar. We also want to reduce sedentary time. So to define what the word sedentary means, it's time spent at rest where your body is burning very little calories and your overall energy expenditure is significantly reduced. For example, you could be watching a movie or you could be catching up on your favorite Netflix series. You could be working behind the desk. Therefore, every so often, set a timer, get up, move around. 100 steps is better than no steps at all. And we are looking to increase your total physical activity time. It's not about running a marathon. We need to walk before we can run. And in order to do that, we need to increase our daily activity and also incorporate structured exercise activities as well. So how do we do that? Well, we need to look at sedentary behaviors which are characterized by prolonged periods of sitting or low energy activities, because they have increasingly become prevalent in today's modern lifestyle with mobile phones, Wi-Fi, Netflix, Amazon. You can order food to your household. This is largely due to advancements in technology, but also changes in your work environment. So these behaviors do actually significantly reduce your overall energy expenditure, such as working at the desk or working on a computer or even sat down on the sofa, driving for a long period of time, jobs which involve sitting down, such as taxi driving, and even just watching TV or browsing on the internet or through social media through what we would label as procrastination. Now, what we can do is actually swap out that sedentary behavior for an active behavior. For example, if you're sitting down for a long period of time, block out every 30 to 45 minutes to get up from your desk, move around, and that's going to help with glucose transportation. Driving for a long period of time, we do recommend that every hour and a half you do pull over to a services and you do stretch your legs, because your muscles will switch off and it can increase the risk of injury and even fatigue. Jobs which involve sitting down, such as taxi driving. Again, if you're picking up a passenger, taking them from one location to the next, we do recommend that in between you get up, you get out of the taxi, perhaps you walk around your local block, you come back, you then get in that taxi. And again, it's just about breaking up those sedentary behaviors. Long period of time watching TV or browsing the internet or social media, you can actually habit stack. Therefore, if you are watching the television, perhaps incorporate something like an indoor treadmill, or even just walking around your local house, walking around your kitchen table, or even just going from a seated to a standing position from your chair to vertical. That is going to help to increase your physical activity time without changing in environment. So daily life activities actually include active commuting, so walking or cycling to work or school, reducing the car, so perhaps use public transport, or you get off a few stops on the way home, or perhaps you park your car a little bit further away. That way you can actually get your steps in, heading into the location that you're wanting to go in. It also reduces air pollution, traffic congestion, and promotes active lifestyles. Taking the stairs instead of the lift. The lift is a fantastic invention. It takes you from the ground floor to the 100th floor via flick of a switch. Whereas if you climb 1,000 steps, hey, a heart rate is going to increase. You're probably going to burn a few calories, and it's a great way to get your steps in as well. If you have kids, that enhances coordination, balance, and mental well-being, because you actually align your health goals with their interests. DIY and home repairs, engaging in physical activity whilst improving your living space and also the quality of your life, provides a sense of accomplishment as well, especially if you've, for example, painted a shed alongside putting up a shelf with your family, your friends, your partner. It then becomes a joint goal. Active entertainment such as movement-based leisure activities like bowling or dancing, it's a great way to socialise, and it's a great way to increase your total physical activity time as well. So we do have different types of exercise, namely aerobic, resistance, balance, and flexibility. We want to incorporate as many different modes of exercise into our routine to achieve a well-rounded fitness regime. So aerobic activities actually include running, cycling, or dancing to elevate your heart rate and enhance your cardiovascular health. Resistance training, it doesn't have to be to lift weights. It can be body weight. You can use bands or even dumbbells, machines, or barbells. Then we got flexibility, yoga, stretching, tai chi, pilates. We actually want to increase the elasticity of our muscle fibers. That way we can actually reduce the risk of injury or illness when we are resistance training or engaging in aerobic activity. Now, balance is considerably important, especially as we start to get older, just because we tend to lose our balance. We want to look at planks, stalk stances, or any unilateral movement to improve our hand-eye coordination. And by incorporating these diverse modes of exercise into your daily routine, that's going to target different aspects of your fitness, not just primarily focus on resistance training. Now, there are significant benefits when it comes to engaging in physical activity. Research has shown that a 30-minute walk every single day, the vitamin D hitting your skin, the wind blowing your hair, can reduce stress, anxiety, and depression by 30%. So almost every single minute that you're outdoors, that's a 1% increase in your total mental well-being. We're also going to reduce chronic diseases as well, just because you're going to improve something I like to label as the London Tube Network, which is your cardiovascular system. So how trains are distributed across the body, left, right, and center, from the top of your head all the way down to your big toe. We could actually link that into lowering blood pressure as well, because the majority of those trains are going to get to the correct destination. Whereas if we had high blood pressure, that means there's going to be barriers on our train tracks. Arteries, veins, capillaries, meaning those trains are now delayed to get to their destination. We could actually take that one step further and say we do have passengers on our train, such as oxygen, vitamins, minerals, cholesterol, catecholamines, and most importantly, glucose. And those passengers, well, they're going to get quite annoyed, right? Because they've not met the deadline and they're not at their destination that they need to be on time. Therefore, those London Tube strikes are going to massively impact the London Tube Network. So we would say that physical activity can actually increase glucose transportation from the blood into your body cell by 7 to 20 times more compared to resting conditions. So when we actually contract a muscle, referring back to insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance, it almost acts as an insulin regulator, which helps to get that glucose from the blood into the cell and get those passengers to the correct destination. Burning subcutaneous and visceral fat. Now, when we engage in physical activity, your body primarily uses carbohydrate, but if you're in a calorie deficit and we've depleted that carbohydrate fuel tank, then we need to find other means of energy. And we do have stored body fat, specifically subcutaneous fat. If you take two fingers, you pinch in your stomach, you pull away that skin, there's a little bit of fat. A little bit of fat, pretty good for us. We are biological machines. We need to regulate our body temperature, whether it's hot or whether it's absolutely cold. If you look at polar bears in the Antarctic, hey, they've got a significant amount of bubbler, right? Therefore, they need to insulate themselves, but too much fat can be detrimental to our health. That's why we see a close association between obesity, high BMI, and type 2 diabetes mellitus. So we can actually burn through subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. Visceral fat is what's stored around our organs. A little bit of fat, pretty good for us. It cushions it, it protects the organ. But if I've got too much fat surrounding my heart, the London Tube network is going to lead to London Tube strikes. It's going to lead to cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, angina. We also look at improving our immune system as well, improving gastrointestinal function. This is considerably important to be able to regulate glucose going from the blood into your cell and actually moving food throughout the gastrointestinal tract through a process called peristalsis, reducing the risk of developing osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. We can actually increase your bone density and improve your balance and mobility as well. So in terms of recommendations, what we would typically aim for is 150 minutes of moderate intensity steady state exercise per week, which we can see on the left hand side there. That does include brisk walking, swimming or cycling. For the majority of you, you will get a prescribed cardio program. Whereas if you're looking at a combination of both, we could look at vigorous intensity per week, which is 75 minutes. That's where you're breathing very fast. It's very difficult to talk. Whereas moderate intensity, if you had a partner next to you, you could actually hold a conversation there. If we're aiming to look at a combination of both, we also want to include strength exercises twice per week. For the majority of you, you probably will be training 2, 3, 4, and on a very rare occasion, if you are an elite athlete, 5 days per week. So how do we go about measuring intensity when we are engaging in physical activity or exercise? This is what we refer to as the Borg RPE scale. And RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. It's a versatile tool that's used to gauge an individual's perception of different types of exercise. For aerobic activities, the scale does run from 6 to 20, but we are focusing on resistance training here. So the scale then goes from 1 to 10. In this context, you would rate how challenging that exercise feels. So for example, if I'm doing a barbell bench press with a 1 signifying very easy and 10, it denotes extremely hard effort. Now on the Fit Coach app, after your resistance training session, you've completed that workout, you may actually utilize the Borg RPE scale to allow you to self-assess during perceived exertion during both aerobic and resistance training sessions. And that personalized approach helps you to actually tailor your workout based on your own perceived effort, and it's going to promote more of an effective and satisfying experience.